Hey guys, recently I've been talking a little bit about wrist and hand comfort, shoulder and neck tension on the channel. And so what I wanted to do was talk a little bit more about the sort of things we can do in a bike fit session to improve performance in those areas and also reduce discomfort and pains that you might be having. So what I wanted to do is introduce some of the kit that I would use during a fit session that can help us with that. So the first thing you can see here is I've got a bar sizer. And what this essentially allows for is me to test multiple different bar widths, but also different bar reach and also different bar drop. That way we can really quickly dial in what feels the most natural for you. The other thing I have here, which you'll see better from some of the other videos from the side, is a stem sizer. So again, this allows us to test multiple different combinations of length, all the way from 60mm right out to 140mm in length, but also it allows us to change through all the different angles that we might find in a stem. And in addition to that, we can also change spacer stack, so to increase and decrease height at the front end. And all of these factors will really help us to dial in and find what position of the front end of the bike is going to make a big difference to your overall comfort and overall performance. So stay tuned for the rest of these videos where we're going to explain how each of these devices work and what things you can look out for. So the first thing I want to talk about is bar width. Now, handlebar width is one of those things, like some other components that come on bikes, that we just tend to get stock sizes. So for example, you buy an extra large bike, you'll get a 46 or a 44 bar. You buy a large bike, you get 44 bars, and so down, 42 centimeters, 40 centimeters, the bikes get smaller. But obviously bike sizes in terms of your height don't necessarily take into account your own proportions: wider shoulders, narrower shoulders, taller, slimmer, etc. So what we often find is that a bike may fit in terms of its size, but the bars might not be appropriate for the individual at all. So what we're talking about when we want to consider bar height, well, we want to think a little bit about what's the actual width of the individual shoulder. So the measurement that we take is from edge to edge of the acromion bone. So that's actually the side of your shoulder blade. And so simply we get a measuring tape, or I've got a measuring ruler right here, place it across the chest and shoulders there in a relaxed position. And I can see here that I measure up just, when I put it on the side, about 42 centimeters. So for me, from that suggestion, 42 centimeters would be a pretty good place to start. Doesn't mean that 42 centimeters is exactly where I need to be, not necessarily. So there are lots of other factors that will feed into why you may or may not like to have a bar position that is exactly the width of your shoulders. So I'm going to talk about that in some of the next videos. So here I've got my sizing bars fit onto my bike here. Now I traditionally ride a 42 centimeter bar. It matches up reasonably well with my acromial width, so generally my shoulder width. And so that riding position allows me to feel pretty comfortably supported and with good reach down to my drops and back up to the hoods. So I just wanted to show you how it might go if we were to test out a really wide or a really narrow bar position. So let's first of all try a really wide one. So I'm going to come out all the way to just a little bit beyond 46. So suddenly we come out here, the arms get really far extended and I'm suddenly reaching just that little bit further. So again, that's going to end up with things being a little bit less comfortable to control, a bigger frontal area, so less aerodynamic, and just a little bit more slow and difficult to control. And it's going to increase my reach and a little bit more pressure on my neck and shoulders because the elbows are locked out. So let's have a look at the alternative situation where we end up with bars that are just too narrow. So I'm going to throw these all the way into 36 just to kind of exaggerate the point. So now we come in here and it pulls me in, super aerodynamic for sure. But again, now I'm really feeling the shoulder muscles around here really being pulled around to try to get this position. And the other thing I notice is that I suddenly can't expand and open my lungs and breathe as well. And for an endurance sport, we all know that that's not very helpful. We need to be able to get air into the lungs. So that just shows you the impact that changing your bar width can have. But beyond that, we can find that there's lots of small differences. So without making those big changes, just a slight change back out to here, and suddenly chest is more open, breathing's easier, there's less pressure on my wrist, I don't feel like my shoulder and back are straining. So if you're having issues with pain, tingling and numbness in your wrists or hands, feeling like you're overstretched at your elbows or pressure around your neck and shoulders, bar width is definitely something that we want to address during a bike fit.